They say money can buy almost anything. Luxury, power, influence. But not respect, and certainly not immunity from consequences. It was a crisp Wednesday morning in Providence, 10 a.m. sharp, when a woman named Patricia Whitmore walked into Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom. On paper, it was a simple speeding case. Routine, nothing out of the ordinary. But in the next few minutes, this courtroom would witness a collision far more powerful than any car crash. Entitlement versus accountability. Judge Caprio, calm as ever, sat reviewing the morning's docket when his bailiff leaned in with a quiet warning. "Your Honor," he whispered, "this next defendant's been difficult." She gave the staff a hard time. Caprio raised an eyebrow. He'd seen every kind of attitude in his decades on the bench, but something in his bailiff's tone made him pause. The file read, Patricia Whitmore, 48 years old. Citation: 25 miles per hour over the speed limit in a residential neighborhood. Officer's notes: argumentative. Claimed she was too important to be stopped. Initially refused to sign citation. The courtroom doors opened, and in walked Patricia, designer clothes head to toe, luxury handbag, phone in hand. She didn't just walk in. She owned the space like it was her boardroom. Every movement screamed superiority. Every glance carried a silent message. This is beneath me. Judge Caprio started as he always did, professionally, calmly. "Miss Whitmore, you're here regarding a speeding citation. Please approach." Patricia didn't even look up from her phone as she strolled forward, scrolling casually. "Miss Whitmore," Caprio said firmly, "I need your full attention. Please put your phone away." Patricia sighed, eyes rolling. "I'm handling important business matters. Can we make this quick? I have actual important things to do today." The courtroom shifted uncomfortably. The tension was instant. The tone, dismissive. You could feel the collective disbelief ripple through the small audience. Caprio kept his composure. "Miss Whitmore, this court is important, and you will give it your full attention. Now, you were cited for driving 55 in a 30-mile-per-hour zone. How do you plead?" "This whole thing is ridiculous," Patricia snapped. "That speed limit is absurd for that road. I drive it every day. I've never had a problem." "That's not what I asked," Caprio replied evenly. "How do you plead to the charge?" Patricia sighed dramatically. "Fine, whatever. I was speeding. Can I just pay this and leave? I don't have time for this nonsense." Judge Caprio flipped through her files slowly, reviewing the details as Patricia's impatience grew louder than her words. "Miss Whitmore," he said, 25 miles over the limit in a residential neighborhood is serious." "There are children," she interrupted, voice sharp as glass. "I know that neighborhood. Those people should teach their kids not to play near the street. I shouldn't have to drive 30 because parents can't control their children." A low murmur swept across the room. You could almost hear the collective gasp at her words. Caprio's tone hardened slightly. "Miss Whitmore, the speed limit exists to protect everyone in that community, not just children. Your attitude toward this citation concerns me." "My attitude?" she fired back, her voice rising. "My attitude is that I'm a successful businesswoman being lectured by a small-town judge over nothing. This is a waste of my time. And taxpayer money." That did it. Caprio stood calm but clearly reaching his limit. "Miss Whitmore, you're in a courtroom. You will show respect for this process." "Respect for what?" she sneered. "For you rubber-stamping tickets to make revenue. I know how this works. I'll pay your fine and be done with it." "Miss Whitmore, your fine for this violation is $350 plus court costs," Caprio said. Patricia laughed. An actual laugh. "That's it? I spend more than that on lunch. Just add it to my card and I'll be on my way." Caprio looked up, eyes steady. "This isn't a restaurant, Miss Whitmore. This is a court of law, and you're treating it like an inconvenience." "Because it is an inconvenience," she said flatly. "You're treating me like a criminal for driving a little fast on an empty road." Caprio tried again, patient but firm. "Miss Whitmore, I'm looking at your record. You have 3 prior speeding tickets in the last 2 years. So what?" she snapped. "I paid them all. That's how this works, right? You give tickets. I pay them. Everyone's happy." He leaned forward. "No, Miss Whitmore, that's not how this works. Each violation represents dangerous driving that could harm others." She rolled her eyes. Oh, please, I'm an excellent driver. I've been driving 30 years without a single accident. That's fortunate, Caprio said, but it doesn't excuse breaking the law. Patricia smirked. Look, Judge, she said, emphasizing the title like an insult. I run 3 companies. I employ over 200 people. I pay more in taxes than most people here make in a lifetime. Maybe you should show me some respect, the gallery gasped. A hush fell over the room. Caprio's expression didn't change. Miss Whitmore, your financial status is irrelevant to your obligation to follow the law. Really? She said. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like this whole system just shakes down people like me who actually contribute to society. Miss Whitmore, Caprio said quietly but firmly, I'm going to ask you one more time to show respect for this court. And if I don't? She smirked. What are you going to do? Fine me more? You can't intimidate me. I'm not some scared kid or poor person who has to bow and scrape before you. The silence was deafening. You could feel every eye locked on her. Miss Whitmore, Caprio said slowly, your attitude in this courtroom is as concerning as your driving. Both show a disregard for rules and safety. Patricia lifted her phone again. Are we done here? I have meetings. Put that phone down, Miss Whitmore. We are not done. Actually, she said, turning toward the door, I think we are. Send me the bill. My assistant will handle it. Miss Whitmore, Caprio said sharply, if you take one more step toward that door without my permission, you will be held in contempt of court. She froze mid-step, turning back with a smirk. Contempt for what? For not being impressed by your little kingdom here? For repeatedly disrespecting this court, Caprio said, his voice steady but powerful. For attempting to leave mid-hearing, and for showing the exact attitude that makes you a danger on the roads. Patricia laughed again, but there was a tremor now, the first crack in her confidence. A danger? I'm a danger because I don't bow before a small-town judge. Caprio rose from his seat, voice commanding now. You're a danger because you believe rules don't apply to you, because you think wealth exempts you from decency, and because you have no regard for the safety of others. This is ridiculous, Patricia muttered, turning toward the door again. Bailiff, Caprio said firmly. Please ensure Miss Whitmore remains in this courtroom. The bailiff stepped forward. Patricia stopped cold. For the first time, real fear flickered in her eyes. You can't keep me here, she protested. Miss Whitmore, Caprio replied, I absolutely can. You're in my courtroom, and you'll stay until this hearing concludes. Now, sit down. Patricia stood frozen, pride battling reality. Miss Whitmore, he repeated, sit down now, or I'll add contempt of court to your citation. After a tense pause, she finally sat. The arrogance had dulled, replaced with something quieter. The first signs of humility. Caprio leaned forward again, his tone deliberate. Now, let's discuss your situation clearly. You were cited for excessive speeding in a residential area. This is your 4th speeding violation in 2 years. You've shown no remorse, no understanding of why this matters, and repeated disrespect to this court. Patricia opened her mouth. I don't have to stand here and be lectured by, yes, Miss Whitmore, Caprio interrupted calmly. You do. That's exactly what's happening right now. The courtroom was silent. For the first time, Patricia didn't respond. And what came next would change the tone completely. Judge Caprio sat back in his chair, his expression calm but resolute. He wasn't angry. That wasn't his style. But there was a firmness in his voice that filled the room. Miss Whitmore, he began, your original fine was $350. However, given your behavior in this courtroom, your complete lack of respect for this process, your words, your tone, I'm increasing it to the maximum, $500 plus court costs. Patricia blinked, caught off guard for the first time. You can't do that, she protested, voice cracking slightly. I can, Caprio said evenly, and I am. This is outrageous, she snapped. Additionally, he continued, unbothered by her outburst, I'm requiring you to attend a driver's safety course within 30 days. You will provide proof of completion to this court. Patricia let out a short, incredulous laugh. A driver safety course? I've been driving for decades. Clearly not successfully, Caprio said. 4 speeding violations in 2 years doesn't suggest responsible driving. She stared at him, her mouth opening. But for once, no words came. This is ridiculous, she finally muttered. I'll appeal this, Caprio nodded calmly. That's your right, Miss Whitmore. You can certainly appeal, and I encourage you to explain to an appellate judge how you treated this court today. Let's see if they're sympathetic. The courtroom sat frozen. You could almost hear her confidence cracking under the weight of his composure. And then Caprio added one more blow. Furthermore, Miss Whitmore, I'm adding a charge of contempt of court for your repeated disrespect, for attempting to leave during a hearing, and for your complete disregard of legal procedure. Patricia's eyes widened. What? You can't be serious. I'm very serious, Caprio said. That's an additional $200 fine. Her jaw dropped. For what? For not kissing your ring? For failing to show the most basic level of respect in a courtroom, he replied. For believing your status puts you above accountability. So, your total is now $700 plus court costs, bringing it to $850, along with mandatory traffic school. The arrogance that had filled Patricia's voice all morning vanished. Her posture softened. Her expression faltered. It was the first time she looked genuinely uncertain. You're punishing me for being successful, she said quietly. No, Caprio replied, his tone steady, almost gentle. I'm holding you accountable for breaking the law and for showing contempt for the judicial system. Your wealth is irrelevant here, Patricia's eyes narrowed. I want to speak to your supervisor. Caprio almost smiled. I don't have one, Miss Whitmore. I'm the chief judge of this municipal court. But again, you're welcome to appeal. That was the moment the power dynamic shifted completely. The gallery sat motionless, watching as the confident businesswoman who had walked in towering over everyone now stood visibly smaller, humbled. Caprio's voice softened, but his words carried deep weight. Miss Whitmore, I want you to understand something. This court sees people from every walk of life. Some can barely afford to pay their fines. Others, like you, can pay them without a second thought. But the law applies equally to everyone who stands before it. Patricia said nothing. Her earlier spark of defiance had dimmed. When you speed through residential neighborhoods, Caprio continued, you're not just breaking a rule, you're risking lives. Children live there, elderly people walk there. Families call those streets home. Your convenience, he paused, is not more important than their safety. For the first time, Patricia looked down. Her eyes shifted away from the judge's gaze. You don't think rules apply to you, Caprio said. You think your business success exempts you from courtesy, from responsibility, from accountability. But it doesn't. It never does. Patricia swallowed hard. The silence that followed was almost heavy. It was as if every word was echoing back at her. Every moment of arrogance from earlier reflected in sharp clarity. I tell everyone who comes before me the same thing, Caprio said. This court cares about your character far more than your bank account. And today, Miss Whitmore, you showed very poor character. Patricia shifted uncomfortably. The fight in her voice had all but vanished. Finally, she whispered, Can I just pay the fine and leave? Yes, Caprio said. But first, you'll apologize to this court for your behavior. Her head snapped up. What? You heard me, he said. You will apologize for your disrespect. Or I'll add another contempt charge. The courtroom went still again. You could feel the tension in the air, the weight of pride clashing with reality. Patricia hesitated, her jaw clenched. For a moment it looked like she might refuse. Miss Whitmore, Caprio said quietly, I'm waiting. She stood there, staring at him. Her pride fought for dominance, but something inside her shifted. A small, reluctant recognition that this was a battle she could no longer win. Finally, she spoke. I apologize for my behavior in court today. Caprio looked at her, unimpressed. Miss Whitmore, say it like you mean it. She took a breath. This time her tone was sincere. Your Honor, I apologize for being disrespectful to you and to this court. My behavior was inappropriate, Caprio nodded. Apology accepted. He leaned forward, eyes meeting hers. Now let me be clear about what happens next. You will pay $850 in fines and court costs. You will complete a traffic safety course within 30 days. You will provide proof of completion to this court. If you receive one more speeding ticket within the next year, I will personally review your case and consider suspension of your driver's license. Patricia nodded quietly. Yes, Your Honor. And Miss Whitmore, he added, one more thing. The next time you're driving through that neighborhood at 55 miles an hour, I want you to remember this moment. Remember that your time is not more valuable than other people's lives. Her voice was quiet now. Yes, Your Honor. You're dismissed, Caprio said. The clerk will process your payment. Patricia turned to leave, but the way she moved, slower, quieter, was different. Gone was the swagger, the defiance, the dismissive air. What replaced it was humility, maybe even reflection. As she walked toward the clerk's office, every step seemed heavier, not with anger, but realization. Maybe, for the first time in a long time, Patricia understood that respect isn't a commodity. It can't be bought, only earned. And often, it's earned in moments like this one. The courtroom doors closed behind her, and Judge Caprio returned to his docket. Another case waited, another lesson in humility, perhaps, for someone else who thought the rules didn't apply to them. But Patricia Whitmore's story wouldn't be forgotten. It would echo, not just in that courtroom, but in the minds of everyone watching. Because what happened that morning wasn't just a speeding case, it was a reminder that entitlement and arrogance always meet their match in a fair courtroom, that wealth doesn't buy respect, and that accountability applies to everyone, no matter how successful they think they are. Judge Frank Caprio proved once again that true authority doesn't need to shout or intimidate. It stands firm, fair, and unshaken, even in the face of disrespect. And as Patricia walked out, quieter and smaller than she had entered, the message hung in the air like a moral stamped in stone. When you achieve success, do you use it to demand special treatment, or do you remember that wealth and status never excuse you from decency, empathy, or the law? Because in Judge Caprio's courtroom, the great equalizer, character will always matter more than your bank balance. And justice, no matter how much money you have, will still find you.